Greetings, patrons. Welcome to episode 40 of Geekvolution After Dark. I'm Captain Logan.
I'm Eric.
We said we'd do something special for this show.
You said we'd do something special. I thought that was weird because it's not a number.
I know,
it's not a major
I know,
number.
but when I said we'd just wear hats or something, you seemed to be okay with it. We forgot the hats. So what we did instead
you said 40.
was we brought a cricket.
Ooh, that's loud.
That's what we did. I'm assuming you guys can hear that. So it's me and Eric this evening, and
is that really outside?
a cricket. No, it's in here. That's why it's so loud. There is a cricket in this room somewhere.
Oh, okay.
It happens this time of year every year. I'm surprised you don't remember, but there's usually a cricket someplace.
I grew up with crickets like all over the place, not in the house, but like it was weird for me moving to Florida because we don't have crickets.
Oh, so this didn't even phase you?
No.
Oh, interesting.
No, it's white noise to me. I grew up from 0 to like 10 years old. Like I go to sleep to this sound. It doesn't. Yeah, I'm just used to it.
Because it was going on.
I didn't notice till you said a cricket, and then I like looked around, and then I heard it, and I was like, oh, that is. And now I can't stop it.
We shot a commentary right before this, and I'm pretty sure the cricket's on the commentary too.
I didn't notice it. I did not notice it till you said probably.
Actually, it definitely is, because I was looking at the waveforms, and when neither of us are talking, you can
would
just
go,
see these tiny little blips like, yeah, it's great. So how are you, man?
I'm good.
It's good to see you.
Yeah.
I mean, I say that, I've been hanging out with you all evening, but it has been good to see you. And, I can't believe we've done 40 of these now. That's pretty cool. We're going to do the same thing we always do.
How about topics?
Pinky. And I too brought topics, and I'm so excited to find out what yours are. I want to say thanks as always to you guys for helping us out with the show and everything you guys do on Patreon. You guys are absolutely wonderful. Eric, as you know, I've had a kidney stone. I've been not feeling well. This last week I've been kind of back to normal.
Yeah.
We're hoping it's gone now. I haven't felt it.
You can actually record
6 days.
Because we just shot the commentary for Hellboy. We were going to do it last week.
We were going to do it 2 weeks ago.
Was it 2 weeks ago?
I want to say.
I thought it was last Wednesday. But maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was 2 weeks.
It was 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
And then I didn't even ask you to try to do it last week because Vince became available for the one I was going to do with him, and then that fell through.
Yeah.
For other reasons.
But like we didn't record it because you just weren't feeling well enough to record.
That's right. Well, and I actually, not to get too TMI or whatever, but I actually had to go to the hospital that night to refill my medicines too. So
right.
even if I had been feeling okay, I still wouldn't have been able to do it because I didn't get home till like 9:30. But anyway, so that's been a thing, and hopefully that's clearing up. And I'm also moving, and you guys can't tell because we have the same shot we usually do, but the majority of the basement is empty now. We have the Batcave. We've boxed up everything, and we've just left this so we have our set, and so that I have my recording stuff and movies in case I need them. But anyway, so here in a couple weeks, that stuff's all going to be gone too, and super excited about the new house. I'm excited to show you guys the bunker as we get that together. And
is that the basement?
Mm-hmm.
Is there a room in there that I'm going to live in?
Not in the basement.
No. Where am I going to be?
One of the rooms upstairs.
Okay.
Yeah, the basement's unfinished.
Oh.
I mean, there's no putting you down there.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, and also I need the basement to be able to shoot. Like,
oh, yeah.
But yeah, there's a room upstairs that will eventually be the playroom. That is probably where you're gonna have it be.
Okay.
But anyway, so we haven't even had that conversation. But yes, there is an extra room.
Well, I assumed because you said you just assumed I was moving with you. So I didn't actually ask where the room was.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, I was initially hoping that you would have time to be able to move out, but it happened so quickly. I don't know if you'll find a place in 3 weeks.
I don't have the money to find a place. I mean, I have money. Like I've got money saved, but not immediately move money.
Yeah.
But like, if you weren't moving till December, like maybe.
Sure.
Oh well. There is also a possibility that I could move out of state like really fast. My mom's got a thing.
Oh,
she's
yeah.
trying to get me to move to Colorado, and she's got like she's like this is a thing that we could do, and if that happened, like it could happen very quickly.
Yeah, sure.
I'm just not sure about it yet because it would take care of financial costs of moving and things, and there wouldn't immediately be rent. So like it's a possibility, but things would have to be figured out, and it's a whole thing.
Yeah. So we're in limbo. We're figuring stuff out.
Lots of drastic changes.
Yeah. Well, obviously, if you end up moving out of state, I'm gonna miss you.
Yeah. Well, and I miss Kansas. Kansas is great.
Well, I'm glad you ended up liking it here.
Yeah. But like, I don't have immediate plans on that. And like, when my mom messaged me, I was like, I don't know if this even makes sense to do, but we'll see.
But to be fair,
we'll
in her credit, you had the same question about coming here.
That's true.
You know, you didn't immediately have a job lined up. I mean, you know, it was kind of the same thing. So
that's true.
But not telling you what to do. I mean, you know, it's that's a tough call. But well, let's go ahead and get right into some stuff. Eric, what would you like to talk about first, sir?
So I went and saw Ghostbusters last night in theaters.
Oh, did you?
I did.
That's cool.
Yeah, it just happened to be playing.
I think I've ever done that. I don't think I've seen it.
It's the 35th anniversary this year.
Yeah.
It's also the 30th anniversary of Ghostbusters 2, but nobody's playing that one.
You'd think there'd be a double feature.
Yeah.
That's kind of surprising.
Yeah. But
it is such a big anniversary year. It's like a million things. I almost made that its own topic. There's so many things.
But so it just kind of happened to be playing, and I had the time. Like, it wasn't like a thing I'd like planned on. Like, my girlfriend was just like, "Hey, Ghostbusters playing. Like, if you want to go see that," I was like, "Yeah, let's go see Ghostbusters." Because it had played on Sunday, and I wanted to see it and didn't get a chance. And I thought it was only Sunday. They also did Thursday, Sunday and Thursday. That's a weird. But so I went to Ghostbusters, and
was it a Fathom thing?
It was a Fathom thing.
Because I think those are usually Sunday and Wednesday, but maybe it is Sunday, Thursday. I forget.
As an aside, they had like a thing where like they had like the thing in the beginning, right? Like a short documentary thing. Boy, they all showed up to sit in chairs and say like 3 words.
Really?
Yeah, it was like really like when we saw Wrath of Khan, like they had that little interview with Shatner. With this, they were like, yeah, it's really fun making this movie, and you know, really the fans have kept it alive, and like we're just so grateful now. And then like it was over, and I was like, I didn't even see it. Like there was nothing there. But then Annie Potts shows up, and she goes, "We're going to show you the I can't do Annie Potts' voice. We're going to show you
Annie Potts.
we're going to show you some alternate takes that have never been seen before."
Mm-hmm.
And by alternate takes, what I think they mean is setup shots where we don't do close-ups. Because it's not like you get to see alternate jokes or things.
Yeah.
Like, the lines are maybe slightly different, but just in the way that, like, you might not deliver dialogue exactly. Like, it's still the gist. It's not a different joke. What these alternate takes are... You remember iconic scenes in Ghostbusters where they have, like, iconic line readings? What if they delivered them as flat as possible? Like, Winston comes up and he's like, "I've seen shit that would turn you white." And, like, you remember when they're doing the Wrath of God stuff and, like Ray's, like, real Wrath of God type stuff. And then it cuts to Egon, he's like, 40 years of darkness, volcanoes! In this, he's like, 40 years of darkness, volcano. Like, it's like if I did it. Like...
That's not that interesting.
No, I was like, I wasted my time seeing these.
So you had a director that said, just pick it up a little bit. Like...
Yeah. Or in the close-ups, like dial it. Like, this is just for the scene setting or whatever.
Yeah.
Right? That's what it felt like. Because there wasn't any cross-cutting.
Oh, okay. So
it felt like
it wasn't even a usable take. It wasn't even what they would be using for that take.
I don't think so.
It was just setup stuff.
That's what it watched like. But anyways, so I saw Ghostbusters.
Bottom of the barrel.
Do you know how long Ghostbusters is?
Right off, I would guess like an hour 45.
It is exactly 100 minutes. So not too far off.
Yeah.
I
knew it wasn't a full 2 hours.
The fuck happened to movies?
Yeah. Did you think it was longer? Or are you just reminding yourself...
I'm just reminding myself that 90 minutes used to be the baseline for movies.
Yeah.
And, like, if you need a little bit longer, you took a little bit longer. And
well,
like...
I always say, like, let it be the length it needs to be.
Yeah, but how many movies are 2 hours plus that don't need to be
A lot of them.
Most Marvel movies? I bet you could cut a badass version of Far From Home that's about 98 minutes. Like,
that's a 98-minute kind of story, too.
A lot of them are. And, like, I started thinking about my movies, I'm like, I'm not saying all movies should be 90 minutes, but when you're making...
I mean, Age of Ultron needed an extra half hour or more. Black Panther, you're not going to begrudge that runtime.
No, I do think that Endgame could have been like 220.
Endgame's got some Lord of the Rings problems.
But like, I'm not saying all movies should be 90 minutes. Blade Runner 2049 needs to be its length.
Yes.
But I'm talking about when you're making.
By the way, I just bought that today, already in the $5 bin.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
I know.
That, like full price.
Can you believe that? And to be fair, it was just a stripped down DVD.
Okay,
I
have the nice.
I just wanted a copy of the movie.
Yeah.
And I might buy the nicer copy later, but it was $5.
The special features are great. There's no commentary. Like you don't need.
Okay, well then I'm glad I did.
But yeah, I was just thinking about like how much shit gets done in Ghostbusters and how well I know those characters by the end of the film. At least 3 of them. I have a sense of Winston.
Yeah.
But like, and then I think about like modern movies that like are like 2.5 hours, and I'm like, I know more about Winston than I do about fucking Captain Marvel. Like,
I don't know anything about her worldview. I know at least kind of what Winston is after.
Yeah.
He's not a real complicated person.
No. Neither is she.
No. Or maybe she is. I don't know.
But, like, these popcorn...
The amnesia thing doesn't help. I mean, she's a tough character to pull off in an origin film.
Yeah. And I don't want to make this, like, just a Marvel movie thing, but it's difficult because Marvel movies are popcorn movies now.
Yeah.
But, like... We need to tighten shit
So we
up.
don't make the blockbusters that are
like
tight and short like they used to.
Yeah.
Like, how long is Independence Day? That probably is a full 2 hours. But
Roland Emmerich is obnoxious. Like it probably is 2 hours, but it doesn't need to be. That could have been a 90-minute movie and be better.
Sure, but I guess the point I'm trying to make is like they played that as like an epic.
Yeah.
And it's like this is going to be longer than you're used to. I bet it's only 2 hours.
And I don't begrudge like Endgame. Like it's unfortunate that Endgame actually had nothing to actually do for 3 hours. 2 hours and 40 minutes had nothing to do. The epilogues are nice, but like they didn't have a story to tell, and they didn't need to waste my time with that. But like when it like that made sense. That was supposed to be a big epic conclusion to 10 years of build up.
And it also has 150 characters.
But no Spider-Man movie needs to be 2.5 hours.
No. Well, probably not.
Spider-Man 2 was obnoxiously long. And that was in 2004. But like...
I mean, Dark Knight's like 220, it needed to be...
And it's
got
playing
like
at that serious drama. Yeah, and none of the Marvel movies are fucking Dark Knight. None of them have that level of character complexity and like level... They just...
Yeah, like, tell me the scene or even the bit of a scene that you take out of Batman Begins. I don't know.
Yeah, but like... But I can point to lots of them in the Marvel movies.
Yeah.
And most blockbuster movies made now. Because they all seem to baseline at 2. We stopped baselining at 90. I'm not saying you have to be strictly 90 minutes. You can be 98. You can be 107.
No, you've seen 90-minute movies that needed more than that.
Yeah, I'm not saying you should cut your movie to the point of anorexic. I think you should start at the place of I want to be about 90 minutes, and maybe I need an extra 15. I think we start at the place of, well, it's going to be a 2-hour movie, and I think most people, when I was a kid growing up, if we were going to sit down and watch a movie, the general assumption was it's going to be an hour and a half. I think the general assumption now is 2 hours. And we're getting less done. We're not as effective. It's like movies themselves are like decompressed comics, right? We're like, Ghostbusters is a one-shot, single comic, maybe 2 issues. And now we go, we're going to tell that story, but we're going to tell it across 6 issues and get less done.
Yeah.
I think we need to fix pacing real bad.
I think there's a bunch of reasons for that. And I first of all, I wonder if there's any kind of a correlation between this issue you're having and the one you have with books right now.
I was thinking about that, but the book thing, I think, is pushing people away from reading.
Yeah.
It's not pushing people away from movies. Now, I think part of it might be we want to eventize movies because we don't actually have a reason to go to the movie theater.
That was one of the things I was going to say, yeah.
But it sucks for rewatching. Like, I don't want to have to sit through 2.5 hours of, like, one of those movies going back to it.
Yeah.
Where like every
less
single
time to watch movies. You
Yeah.
can see as many things as you usually would.
Yeah.
And you think about all the other things that are vying for our attention all the time, and how oversaturated television is, and how much of a commitment TV shows are. And then we're over lengthening our movies at the same time.
Well, and I've also complained about TV shows where it's like, so you had 3 episodes worth of content, and you made 8 episodes.
Yeah. Or you had 8 episodes worth and you made 13.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if the blurring the lines of TV and movies is part of what's to blame for this too. In binge culture, does it not make sense that movies would get longer?
But that's part of it too. They should be shorter.
Yeah.
Because if you're going to make a movie that's 20% setup, it doesn't need to be 2 hours and 30 minutes. Like, make it more its own thing, right? Like, it's obnoxious that, like, okay, so I'm going to see a movie and, like, I'm going to watch at least 10, 15 minutes that's really there for other movies. I think it's... And I've heard people complain about the movie length thing, but like I don't know something. Ghostbusters is like nigh a perfect movie. Like it's one of those.
Yeah.
So like it's not exactly fair to compare it to like what a lot of people think is like a nearly flawless movie. Back to the Future's like that too.
Yeah.
Back to the Future I think is also close to 90 minutes.
It's not long. Yeah.
But like I don't know. I think this like there's something about that where I'm like I saw so much in Ghostbusters, and I thought about something I thought about something like Doctor Strange. I think it's about 2 hours. I think.
I don't think there's any Marvel movie that's less than an hour 50.
Well, it's 3,000. It's 3,000. It's 3,000 minutes through Far From Home because the I Love You 3,000 thing and that stupid fucking conspiracy theory. They were telling us they loved us 3,000. So they don't love you after this. So just don't go see Marvel movies after Far From Home because they don't give a fucking shit about you. God, people are... Anyways, but it's 3,000 minutes divided by 21 films, divided by 60. I think it averages like 2.3. Like,
yeah.
That's not good. That's not good. But like I think Doctor Strange is about 2 hours, which means it's about a half hour longer than Ghostbusters. I see so many ghosts in Ghostbusters. I see so much shit happen. I get this like distinct setup and build to Gozer before Gozer finally appears, and then we do
it's a
Escape
movie
of
with no
Marshmallow.
padding. It also helps that it's not an action movie, so it doesn't feel the need to like sit there
And do the action scene thing.
scenes. Yeah, like
But you'll never get that from Ghostbusters again.
No, probably not. But like you're building around set pieces with Marvel movies. Even when they're character driven, they always at least kind of feel that way. And it's just the priorities are in a different place. Like even when the filmmaker is really trying to tell a story, the studio has priorities. And Ghostbusters wasn't made like a studio film. And so like I think a lot of it is priorities. I think a lot of it is it's really easy. This is a thing I fight with my wife about.
And it's also weird that we're building set pieces, that we're selling these movies as set piece things, but like so much with CGI, like it's not impressive.
Yeah.
Like why do I like cut this shit and like give me more character stuff?
That's what I was going to say. This is a thing that that I constantly have to kind of remind my wife about because she'll be like, "Well, how come we can't just tell better stories in movies?" And I'm like, "Because that's not the point. Like that's not entirely why they get made." So like, it's really easy to say, and obviously this is sort of what I do for a living. It's really easy to look at a movie and say, "Here's all the things you could do to make it a smarter, tighter film." But when that's not the main priority, and that's only 5th or 6th or 150th on your list, it's like you can tell why it didn't happen that way. So like you and I are frustrated because for us the point is to tell a good story, but for the studio the point is to get butts in seats. And
well, and that's the part of the Martin Scorsese quote that everybody.
And so you're about like just checking the boxes. And if you think about it, if you make a movie about checking the boxes, it's gonna get longer because you're shoving shit in, right?
Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the part of the Martin Scorsese quote that no one was quoting afterwards because they just look at the beginning of it. But when he says it's not cinema, that is followed by a second statement, which is they're roller coaster rides.
Right. Yeah.
Which is what they are.
in certain cases, more complicated than that.
Sure.
Some of them are both.
Sure. But
and I realized he was just making a general statement based on his own experiences, and some people made a big deal out of that.
Well, and I'm talking generally about not even just Marvel movies. It's easy, folks, because again, like those are the blockbuster movies, but it's all of them at this point.
Yeah.
Like it's not just one. It is every blockbuster movie. Like I'm pretty sure the Fast and Furious movies, which is the only other franchise I can think of, that's in this vein, are like 2 hours too, like 2 hours plus. I don't think those are 90 minutes, and those movies should be 90 minutes. Like, not even having seen them, I know those movies should be 90 minutes.
If I'm right about this, I don't know if it's done consciously, but, and this is just my gut talking, but I wonder if some of it isn't, and again, this might not be conscious, isn't, people, it's harder to get people to leave their house to go to the movie theater now.
Mm-hmm.
And so, shouldn't they be longer? I'm not saying they should, but like, is the conventional wisdom like...
You're going to pay your $10, you want a long experience. You want it to be worth the money.
Yeah, and rides are like that.
Mm-hmm.
Theme park rides are like that. Haunted houses are like that.
Mm-hmm.
You paid a certain amount to get in here. You're going to be upset if the thing you were hoping was half an hour is only 8 minutes.
If we can't make it worth your time, we'll make it take longer.
Yeah, so that it feels like, even if you didn't love the movie, at least you feel like you got bang for your buck. It's not the same thing as, like, page count with comics. I mean, you still want the comic to be good, but, like, even if it turns out to suck, you're going to understand that you paid $6 for a longer comic than the $4 you usually pay for a 20-page comic. Movies aren't like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a physical object, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and DVDs aren't like it. It's not like, well, this is a 3-hour. The Endgame costs the same as Black Panther.
We pay a little more for TV box sets, but so length matters there. But by and large, yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I was just watching that movie. I was just really struck by.
You're not going to pay any more for Titanic right now than you're going to pay for Field of Dreams, right?
And there's a lot of stuff cut out of that movie because it wasn't necessary. We don't cut things out of movies anymore.
We also don't know what necessary means sometimes anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say earlier, I would rather a movie be too long than cut down to 90 minutes and be hacked to pieces to the point where I don't even understand what the hell's going on.
And we've seen movies like that.
We've seen a lot of movies like that, and it also happens constantly in the superhero genre.
Mm-hmm. More on the DC side.
I was going to say, I'm looking at you, Suicide Squad, et al.
And theatrical cuts of
They're
BVS.
all like that except for Wonder Woman.
I mean, Justice League is followable.
And
Justice League is a bad example of this. So I think Justice League is a type 90, not like 95.
They're all that until we get to Justice League. Justice League is in a weird league of its own. It's not like Aquaman doesn't have that problem. Aquaman is too long. But it doesn't have that problem. Shazam's pretty tight, actually.
Yeah.
With the exception of that fight at the end that I think goes on too long.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't feel like a movie that needs a bunch cut out of it.
We've also lost...
I don't know how long that is. But
we've also lost perspective of, on scale.
Yes.
Like, part of that's because we can do anything now,
Yep.
and so nothing feels special, so we just keep getting bigger. But, we're not making it more emotionally resonant. We're just making... at the end of Ghostbusters...
Yeah, how do you force minimalism?
Yeah, at the end of Ghostbusters, they cross the streams and the building explodes. That's it.
But it felt pretty big.
It feels huge.
It helps that Stay Puft is this big giant monster thing.
Yeah. Stay Puft plays so well.
Yeah.
When I watch things, especially comedies, when I rewatch them, I don't tend to laugh. Sometimes when I'm with other people and they're laughing, or if they're watching for the first time, but when I'm by myself or something,
yeah.
Boy, in the theater, and there was a couple of things in that movie that I laughed at, but could not get over the ridiculousness of Stay Puft. His facial expressions are so perfect and it's so absurd.
Well, and that comedy plays better huge.
Mm-hmm.
And I think another thing to keep in mind is we don't really make movies for the theater anymore. We do, but we don't, right? They come out on video a month and a half or 2 months after they come out in the theater, and when I'm not saying they're all like this. I feel like Joker, we were thinking about the theater when we made that movie.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of big action things, I'm not saying that movie was brilliant or anything, I'm just saying that that was a theatrical experience, I felt. But I feel like a lot of a lot of movies have to be made with the thought of this is going to be primarily watched at home.
Mm-hmm.
Like here pretty soon, it's already going to be in the house.
Well, and not to just compare everything to what is currently the single greatest ongoing franchise, but the John Wick movies are pretty tight, and they get. I see a lot of different shit. Like that's part of the problem with the Marvel movies.
And they want you to go to the cinema. And I'm not saying that none of the Marvel movies have that. I'm not saying that they're not trying to be good theatrical experiences. But some of those are getting to the point where I don't know that you have to see them in the theater.
Or something like Endgame, where the idea of you need to see it in the theater is so you can be with the crowds when they react at every obvious joke and callback.
It's more that than it looks great on a big screen. And there's a lot of stuff in that does, but some of the CG that doesn't hold up great would look better on a smaller screen.
It was worse than Infinity War. There was some genuinely bad CGI in Infinity War. But
I still feel funky about Thanos.
Yeah.
I just do.
But like most of the Marvel movies, not showing me like different shit. Like that was my biggest complaint with Doctor Strange is like, okay, so you came up with one prismatic effect, and that is all you did for 2 hours is this one prismatic effect.
Yeah, sure.
But like John Wick, like I'm seeing like a dude like they have the knife fight and he kills guy with the book and then like you're seeing all this different shit. Those are pretty tight movies. I don't know how long they are, but like I can't imagine they're much longer than 2 hours, if they're 2 hours even. And they're not.
It felt longer, but I don't know if it was.
Yeah.
I don't mean in a bad way. There's just a lot going on in that movie.
And they're not.
That just came out.
Yes, it did. I really need to buy it. They're not the like deepest or most complex things. But there are very few summer blockbuster movies from the past 5 years to a decade that feel much deeper than John Wick movies. And they're just more economic about it. And that's really all I'm asking for is be more economic. And also, I get that you're all like dicking around on set. Maybe every joke doesn't have to be in the movie. Like, just pick the really good ones.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like we cut any humor. And like I bet there's lots of shit from Ghostbusters we didn't use.
Where did the less is more philosophy go? When was the last time you heard somebody say any of that?
I don't know.
Brian?
No, it's that.
No, you're not wrong. I mean, I think movies are often too long, but I think they're also when they're too short, or maybe they can be too long and still have this problem because we're just cutting the wrong things. They end up not being whole pieces.
Well,
and I think that's just as big of a problem as movies being too long, right? Like, how did Power Rangers happen?
Yeah. But I also...
How were there clearly entire scenes or entire, like, connective tissue things that tell you how characters get from one place to another that just... Or motivations that just aren't there? I don't understand how that happens.
But I also think it's not just that like movies are longer now. I think like the decompressed comics thing, movies are longer.
You're saying they're not tight enough.
And less is happening.
Yeah.
Like Ghostbusters takes place over the period of at least a month, if not a couple, and is not an origin movie. Like, it is them getting together, but like when you get to the end of that movie, this is not the culmination of like their origin. They're already the well-respected Ghostbusters. Like, so much happens in that movie, and time passes and progresses, and also, things feel less contrived, because you don't have to say, well, this all happened in 3 days.
Is part of the problem sometimes, and I'm not saying this necessarily for the Marvel movies, but is part of the problem sometimes, like, sophisticated means slower? This problem
we talked about this with Iron
that
Fist.
We've talked about with some of the streaming
shows. But a lot of Netflix shows have this.
I wonder if any movies are having that problem. I can't think of a good example. Where it's like, we're just lingering on a shot for a long-ass time because that makes it more artsy.
The only thing I can think of...
I feel like Joker did that, but well, for the most part.
Well, and the other movie I was going to bring up is Blade Runner 2049, which it works.
And also, that's how the first movie was paced.
Mm-hmm. Although the first movie was only 90 minutes. Because remember, we had that conversation going into the theater where we were like, this is 2.5 hours. The first... It does.
Really long.
It does. But what's interesting is 2049
well,
is...
you say 90 minutes, but the cut... The last time I watched it, like that cut, I don't know if that's 90 minutes. I don't know if the director's cut is 90 minutes, or
I'm pretty sure
that
it is.
last cut.
Or it might be a little bit longer, but like...
But you're saying it's not 2 hours?
It's not 2 hours.
Wow.
But it feels about as long as 2049.
It does. But 2049 earns that.
Yes. But we had that conversation walking into the theater for 2049 was... Are they just gonna go slow because that's what the first movie did, and like, did they forget how?
Well, that's the thing. Is as I said, yeah, that's how the first movie.
But it had a more complex story.
But it could have, to your point, and this is what I was afraid it would do. It could have really rode on that and not really had much of a story and not had compelling characters and just been like, see, it's deep because it's boring.
But it was a more complex story that used the pace of the first
deep
film,
and sometimes boring. It's amazing. I love 2049. There are places where I just want to fall asleep.
I mean, I love both of them, and like, I think Blade Runner is an amazing movie.
I don't know
also
if
think
boring
it's
is the right
a
word.
boring film, or can be.
But do you have that with 2049 also?
Less so.
Yeah. Like, I say boring. It's not though. Like, it's hard to say anybody watching that movie, but I don't know why because I love it, and it's weird.
Anyways, so
some of that is.
We spent half of our runtime on my first topic.
That's all right. It was a good topic. It was worth talking about. I'm gonna mention also a movie thing. So I'm going back and forth on a thing that I've said forever, which I still want to think I agree with, but I cannot be consistent about it. And I want to ask you what your take is on it. So I've always said that I don't need biopics to be like what happened in real life necessarily, even at all. But like, I don't need it to be like perfectly biographical, as long as a good story is being told, where like it's based on real life events, but it's essentially a fictitious story.
And this is something I've never fully agreed with.
And what I'm discovering, because I'm just looking at them like I look at any story, right? Where it's like, if the story was compelling and it was told really well, then like I can see why people that are really familiar with that person or the material are frustrated that they didn't get something that's more authentic. But if it's a really good piece, it's still a really good piece. Here's the thing. If I know too much about the background, it matters more.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I'm discovering more and more, is I have only really had that with things
that you
that
didn't know about.
I didn't know anything about. And so I'm going to talk about one here in a second. But the first example I want to bring up, which I talked about earlier in the year, was it this year?
The Queen movie?
It is the Queen movie, which I thought was fine. I wasn't impressed with it. I wasn't hugely impressed with it, but I thought it was fine when I walked out. And then I started reading more about it. And then I started getting upset. And then I thought, but wait, I'm the guy that's always said it's fine as long as it's a good story. And then I decided, but the people that are saying that his story is way more interesting than the movie they told.
Yes,
and
that's the thing. That's the thing I always heard, and that's I think there are two reasons to be against it.
There's a better movie to make.
I think there are two reasons to be against it, and that's one of them, which is if the life story is more interesting,
then why'd you change it?
Yes,
and it's the same thing as adaptation, right? Where it's like, I'm fine with huge major changes from a comic to screen if you had a good story to tell, if it's at least as interesting or more interesting than what was on the page.
Mm-hmm. Or like you do the Andy Kaufman thing, you come up right the Man in the Moon thing, and say like, this is not exactly what happened.
Yeah.
Ed Wood doesn't do that, but Ed Wood also has that feel where like Ed Wood almost frames itself as like almost like a fairy tale, not exactly, but like you get the impression watching Ed Wood that like this is not a documentary. This is not what happened. But like it's a romanticized notion of what happened.
Yeah.
And like it's probably the best story you could tell with Ed Wood. I think Man in the Moon's probably that way too. Like I'm sure he did other interesting things, but like I don't know if you could make his life into a more interesting film than they made.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. Like I kept seeing people talk about the Queen movie where they're like, this is the most boring movie about the most interesting man.
Yeah. So, I watched a biopic that I always meant to watch and just never got around to yesterday. I watched Walk the Line.
I've always meant to see that.
And I've only ever heard good things about it.
Me too.
And people act like it was like one of, if not the seminal performance of Joaquin Phoenix's career. And of course, the reason I watched it, besides the fact that I like Johnny Cash a lot, and I've been actually recently reading his autobiography, is his second autobiography, the last one he wrote before he died. But I saw Joker, and I couldn't even imagine the guy who played that role, the guy from Her, doing Johnny Cash. It was weird. I didn't like it.
Was it because you knew too much?
I'm not totally sure. I think with that particular movie, I think I still would have not appreciated it as much as a lot of other people said they did, just because I think they went too far in trying not to candy coat it, where Johnny Cash just comes off really detached and really unlikable.
Interesting.
And it's
they tried to go too far the other way.
Yeah, where in trying to go like as tell-all as they could, they forgot to tell the parts where he's a good person, and it was kind of just all the negative, and it wasn't, right? There's a real, like, telling but not showing thing going on in that movie, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
This is a thing that I'm sure would, like, people that like that movie is like, or have seen that movie, really would be a controversial thing to say. But I don't think a lot of it works. Like, the production value is great, the directing is great, of course, that's Mangold, he's
it's
great.
Interesting that you say that, because the reason I never watch it is I always assumed that it was the cookie cutter formula.
It's too far the other way.
Interesting.
Yeah, so, it feels like, to a small degree, like the Joker movie if it was Johnny Cash. Like,
How is Joaquin Phoenix? You don't like him?
It's a good performance, it's not Johnny Cash.
Okay.
Like, because the thing is, the reason I'm comparing it to Joker, it feels like he was cast for the same reason, where it's like, we want to tell a story about this really damaged person who doesn't know how to live in the world the way it is and can't talk to people. That wasn't really Johnny Cash.
Okay.
I just don't buy it. And even if I knew nothing about Johnny Cash, I wouldn't have liked that character, and I wouldn't know why I was supposed to care. Where it's like,
except that he made great music.
Yes,
It's like making a John Lennon movie and just focusing on him, like, beating Yoko Ono.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
This was focused on his guilt for the death of his brother, which is played way harder in the movie than I've ever heard Johnny Cash talk about it. And
I have seen the parody film of that movie, and they play with that. It's really fun.
And maybe
he accidentally cuts him in half with a machete.
That's really fun.
Because they have a machete fight.
And maybe this is a matter of trying to tell a story about the man that's not exactly from his perspective, where it's like he's maybe downplaying his own guilt about that in his writing, but the movie doesn't want to do that, except that it is said to be in the opening credits an adaptation of the autobiography that I'm reading.
Oh.
Yeah. So no, like, his relationship with his dad is way worse in the movie than it's described in the book, and it's like, there's this animosity to the point where, like, they both really hate each other.
Is it possible that there's, like, other sources that they're pulling from?
Yeah, and they definitely are, but the problem is, there are too many anecdotes that of affection that he writes about with his father that just are not in the movie, and so you would think that from the day he was born, Johnny Cash's father, wished he had never been born because his older son was the good son and was the better son, and it's not even just he blames him for the other kid's death. It's he never liked. It's not like that. The way Johnny Cash describes it, and I just have a hard time buying that it would be with the kinds of values and like the way Johnny Cash talks about life when you listen to him speak. I just have a hard time buying that he was ever as out of touch and detached as he is in that movie. I don't buy it. He was obviously self-destructive. He was obviously, on a level he didn't even understand, trying to kill himself through pills and trying to ruin his relationships. He was absolutely doing that, and I'm sure the death of his brother had stuff to do with that. But I did not like the character in that film at all, and I felt like it was trying to it was like not communicating things that it thought it was communicating. So, like, he keeps embarrassing June on stage, and that becomes like this weird motif in the movie. And so by the time at the end of the movie he proposes to June on stage, which is done way differently from how it actually happened. But again, that's not necessarily a problem. Like, okay, we're overly dramatizing stuff, whatever. It doesn't read romantic. It reads like he wore her down to the point where she finally said yes, and he almost coerced her into it. And the scene when that finally happens tries to play as like really sweet, and it's kind of creepy, and it just doesn't work. Like, he's begging her to marry him for a long time, and he's done like all these really horrible things to her, and then by the time by the time we get to that, the night before in the movie, the night before the concert where on stage he proposes to her, he wakes her up on the bus at 2 a.m. and proposes like drunk. I can't remember if he was drunk. I think he was. I forget about that part. But anyway, he proposes again, and she's like, "This is inappropriate and stupid, and we're not doing this right now." And then the next day, does it on stage in front of 7,000 people, and it watches like he doesn't think she'll say no because she's on stage. And this is years after he's embarrassed her on stage before, when he was still married and she had just gotten divorced, where he... We're just giving away this movie, but you know.
Does this count as a review on Patreon?
It might. But I want to go through this for a second, because I'm not going to review this. But like years earlier in the movie, he embarrasses her on stage by like earlier he had been like trying to kiss her. He really wanted to get with her, and she was like, "I'm not having it." And he like coerces her to come out on stage. And then, like, does a song that's really uncomfortable for her because it's from the perspective like they're married, and she's not comfortable with it. And then he pecks her on the cheek on stage, and she says, "Don't do that," and runs off. After doing that, that's not how you propose? Like, on stage?
Mm-hmm.
And so it looks like he just wears her down, and she finally says yes, so he'll leave her alone about it. And, like, it's rough. Like, I don't know. I don't think it works at all.
But is that because that you know the actual stuff, or do you think you just wouldn't like it regardless?
I think both.
Because like we had this with the Disaster Artist, where like the Disaster Artist was like a firm divide between people that had or had not read that book. Yep. Where it's like, you made a lovable loser out of a scary monster.
Yeah.
And you used the fact that they're friends now as a justification for them being friends at the end of the movie, even though that's not how it went in real life.
Yeah.
And I also
think... the difference is they made a fiction that kind of works out of that, whereas I want to think I would still have a lot of the same problems that I have with this if I didn't know anything.
But it's interesting because it's the opposite thing of... Usually the problem is, like, I kind of never want to see Saving Mr. Banks because it's propaganda.
Yeah, it is.
I
didn't know anything about her before I saw it, which is part of why I liked it so much, which I'm sure is a lot of why I liked it so much.
Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think the Disaster Artist is propaganda. Like, who's that propaganda for? Like Tommy Wiseau? Like, it's not part of a mega corporation's evil plan to make you forget all of the bad things they did.
It wanted to make a feel-good movie out of it.
Yes. I think it's interesting that and that's almost always the problem.
Yeah, but this goes too far the other way.
Your problem is, no, they made it worse than it really was.
They think he's redeemed. Yeah, and like, he did a lot of bad stuff, mostly to himself. Well, I mean, he messed up relationships and things, like absolutely. And I'm not saying that he didn't make a lot of mistakes with June, and he's talked about that. But
I would be interested to see what you think of Walk Hard now, having seen Walk the Line.
I don't know what that is.
That's the parody film of Walk the Line. Because like you keep saying things, and I've only ever seen that, and
that's
so I'm
really
thinking,
funny.
like, there's a point in that movie where he's just laying in bed shirtless, and there's like a woman like riding him, right? And he's drinking like straight out of a bottle. I think he has pills in his hand. He just like looks at the camera. He's like, "It's a dark time in my life."
But I don't know. It doesn't focus enough on the stuff that made him really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And so, it just brushes by the reasons people love Johnny Cash.
But is that more unacceptable than doing the other thing? wiping all pushing aside all the dark stuff under the.
I don't think either extreme is good.
Because it almost,
for the sake of
because
the
the way
story,
you're describing it almost sounds like it's like an experiment. We're like, what if we did the inverse? What if we took all the good things out and we only focused on the negative? What does that movie look like?
And then the only reason that you would like that character is because you know who Johnny Cash was. So it becomes a problem because you have to bring a prerequisite to it, right? For the sake of the story they're telling, I don't have enough reason to care about this person. Like he's sympathetic in the sense that I kind of get how he got like that, but it's played as redemptive at the end, and I don't see it.
Interesting.
I mean, I don't know, that's a problem regardless of whether or not I know anything about Johnny Cash, but I think it bothered me more because I do, and because that's a real life character that I admire, despite his faults, right? I did not admire the character in the film, but it played like I was supposed to.
Interesting.
And so that, I don't know, that, like, with this particular example, I do feel like I still wouldn't like the movie as well. I mean, that I wouldn't like the movie as well as a lot of people did. And I think it would not have been as acclaimed if it wasn't Johnny Cash.
Do you think part of it was?
But it's also got me questioning whether or not I was right about that. I don't know.
Do you think it was like the?
I'm conflicted.
Do you think the reaction to that movie was maybe just people being like, well, this is a breath of fresh air. Like, finally, it's not a watered-down, sanitized.
Maybe so. I mean, it was right around the same time as Ray, which does all that better.
Okay. Which I've not seen either. But you really like that movie.
I do, because that movie, you know, takes that guy and makes him complicated as opposed to all good or all bad.
I guess.
And the Johnny Cash movie thinks it's doing that. I just don't think it is.
Because we've kind of had this conversation before, but can you, if you're doing the feel-good movie, why not just make it fictional?
Yeah.
Why not just be like, this is inspired by, like, and you don't even actually have to credit it. Like, that can be a thing you say in interviews because, like, it's fiction.
You know what I'm going to say though, right?
What?
Name recognition.
Well, yes.
Like, if you just make it fictional...
But is it socially irresponsible to make Saving Mr. Banks?
I don't know if it's not socially responsible to make a movie that overly vilifies somebody
sure.
who had a lot of positive aspects.
But, like, The Disaster Artist was not named...
And again, I don't think this movie did that on purpose. I just think it accidentally wound up that way.
But, like, The Disaster Artist was not about name recognition.
Yeah.
But could that movie have been made as a fiction that was inspired by the events of The Room?
It could have, but the people that made that movie really wanted, half of what they wanted to do was just recreate the movie.
Yes.
You know, The Room.
But, yeah, I don't know. Because I'm always... And you can, a lot of times you can feel it, too. Like, even if you're not familiar with the material, you're like, well, this is a real typo. And, like, everything just worked itself out. The Bohemian Rhapsody thing was fascinating because it came out and it got a lot of negative buzz. And a lot of people were not liking it, both as a film and as a representation of Freddie Mercury. And 6 months later, it started getting nominated for Oscars and no one batted an eye.
Yeah.
I didn't hear, like, outrage.
I did. It was weird.
Like, I mean, was he, in that movie, was he great? Like, was he worth getting the nomination? I think, did he win Best Actor?
I don't think he did. I'm not sure who won, but...
Okay. Was it worth the nomination? Should I be excited he's the next Bond villain?
It's complicated. I mean, yeah. Like, he was the right choice. I mean, he was great at it.
Okay.
But it's difficult to say... I don't know. It's difficult to completely separate a performance from a script, from the rest of the movie. Like, if the material he's working with isn't as good as his performance is not as good. Is it?
Whereas you said you really liked the one that just came out a couple months ago. Rocket Man.
And it had the script to back it up.
And that one sounded like it was in between, right? Like it didn't... Well, just from the trailer, what made me interested in the trailer was like, okay, so it's not going to paint him like the best guy in the world.
No, it's layered. It's complicated.
Do you think you, as an artist, you have a responsibility to present a more accurate picture? If you're actually basing it on real events, or, like, do you, going into that project, should your priority be, I don't want to candy coat this, I don't, like, I want to tell as close to the story as I can in a good narrative. Because I don't think that is the motivation of most of, it's that thing where it's like, especially when it's based on a snippet, like Erin Brockovich. Like, Erin Brockovich is based on this one little thing that happened in her life, and does not talk about the fact that afterwards she was a monster because she fought for all those kids' rights and whatnot, and they didn't see a cent of it because it all got cleaned up by legal fees from her. She didn't actually help those people at all.
Yeah.
But all anyone knew was that headline of, like, the prostitute that, or the not prostitute, she was a stripper, the stripper that, like, stood up for all these children. I think movies like that, oftentimes, when it's based on that headline thing, like, you see this a lot, like based on true events, and it's like, it's something you've never really heard of, or if you heard of it, it was like, oh yeah, I did hear that there was a big fire with a lot of firefighters.
Yeah.
We're like...
But you're not going to know the details.
As opposed to, like, a biopic?
And so most people aren't going to be upset about the changes they made because they don't know about them.
Mm-hmm. I think those movies, the headline you go into with thinking, I'm going to make like an inspiring story that people are really gonna. I don't know about a biopic. I guess it is with a biopic too, right? Like, you go in going, this is a person people really like. I'm gonna make a movie about them, or it'll be like Vice, where it's not a great biopic because I don't know enough about the guy in the narrative itself. Like, Vice is not a film you can watch without context.
No, it's not, and that's the problem with Vice. But the nice thing about that movie is it has, it's not pretending like it's fully accurate. It knows it can't be, and it comes out and says that.
Well, and it says in the beginning, like, we did our best.
Yeah, and I appreciate.
I think that's the same director as Walk Hard, actually.
I appreciate that it does. Oh, weird. I appreciate that it does that.
A couple of those guys, because, like, the Hangover movies, like, that's the Joker guy. Like,
right.
a couple of those comedies guys have gone into more serious. I mean, Vice is a comedy, kind of.
Yeah.
It
as
looks
much
like
as
it's
got to
Wall
be
Street
made by
is.
people that were making comedies before. But yeah, I don't know how to answer that question at this point. It's tough because I'm a story guy first, and if it tells a great story, I want to not care as much. Like, one of my favorite biopics has always been A Beautiful Mind, and there were people that don't like that movie because they know the things about the man, and I didn't before. And then when I read up on it, I was like, I get why people were upset, but I started with the movie, and it's a good, solid story. It's a good narrative.
And the only good thing Akiva Goldsman ever wrote.
Yeah. And
so much so that most people think he didn't actually write it.
And so I just think, I don't know. It's really difficult nowadays. I mean, you're basically asking me the question that I opened this with.
Yes.
I don't know at this point. It's really hard to say because sometimes changing all the names in places changes it too much to the point where you can't really tell that story the way you want it to. I don't know. But more often than not, what I'm finding is when you go read about what really happened, there's still a story there, and there was still a movie to be made. And
well, yeah, because Saving Mr. Banks would be a very different movie about a man ruining a woman's work.
Yeah, like sometimes it watches like, you know, when you do something like I'm doing, where you're reading, you know, a biography or an autobiography, and then you look at the movie, you see all these details that they threw in, but in totally different contexts. It makes you wonder, hey, did they put that in there to, like, look more authentic, or because they actually really thought that it fit better in the place where they put it, or did they not understand what that like the importance of those details? Like, sometimes you watch, and I had this some with that movie, where sometimes it's like, you just threw this random thing here because you thought it was kind of interesting, but you didn't even understand it. You didn't know what it meant. Like, why is it there? One of my issues with that movie is it watches like people who did their homework, but who didn't understand the reading. So they clearly went and spent some time in Arkansas. But nobody that worked on that movie grew up in Arkansas. I also think that I'm harder on it because I'm from Arkansas. Like, I know that state,
Mhm.
and there's some stuff that feels really authentic, and all the accents are great. But like at the end of the day, like Reese Witherspoon, too Hollywood for that move for that role.
That was another reason I want to stay away from it. I've never seen her great in anything.
I think she's
fine
actually
in certain
really
things.
good in that movie, but
Okay.
she's just
She's not from Arkansas.
she's not June. She's not that person. Like, I don't know. Like, she's too supermodel.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the problem with a lot of things.
Yeah.
Well, and then you have something like The Aviator, where like The Aviator's telling a story about a specific kind of period in his life.
Yeah.
But they also bring in the crazy shit from later.
Yep.
Um,
Just to make it more interesting.
yeah, and it is things he went through, but they move the timeline around. I don't mind moving the timeline around as much.
Yeah.
Although people had a major issue with Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah.
But
understandably.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, anyway, I don't know. So, like, I haven't resolved that. I haven't figured out where I come down on that now. But it's almost like that video game thing to a degree where it's trying to serve two purposes simultaneously.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very hard to square them.
But when it does work, it's great.
Yeah.
What do you think next live-action Disney reboot is? What do you think's coming? What's coming down the line? Because they...
Of things that haven't been announced yet?
Yeah, because they kind of shot their wad real fast.
Real fast. Well, we had 3 theatrical ones just this year, and they were all major things. Well, two of the 3 were major things, and, like, Dumbo not as much so, just because, you know, my generation, that movie was old. You know what I mean? But, like, really, you did Lion King and Aladdin within 2 months of each other. Really?
Pace yourself, man.
Yeah.
So what do you think's coming down the pike?
Yeah. Well, I was mostly just trying to go through some of the ones they've made already, because like I'm having a hard time coming up with things that they can even
Cinderella,
do. Like,
Maleficent,
are you gonna
Lion
do?
King.
Are you gonna do a live action Fox and the Hound? Probably not.
No, Disney will never do Fox and the Hound ever
never
again.
touch that again. Yeah, but we're doing Mulan. But they're not gonna do Hercules.
I think Hercules is on the table.
Is it? Do you?
Yeah, and I think I have the definitive casting for Hades, which is Sam Rockwell. Sam Rockwell should be Hades.
Oh, that's an interesting choice. Yeah.
Because James Woods is too old to do that physically. Although he's amazing.
So what do you think the next thing they'll do is? I'm assuming you brought this up because you gotta.
Well, I was thinking about it. I think within the next couple of years you will see their Sleepy Hollow. You'll see that redone. I think that's one.
That's a good idea.
That people remember really well. It's also like 20 minutes, and extending it to 2.5 hours could be a problem.
Yeah,
but that's why I think people finally remember that. Here's the important thing: is about human beings. I think you will never see Robin Hood, or if you see Robin Hood, they will not be animals like they are in the cartoon.
No.
Especially after the reaction to the poster for Lady and the Tramp.
And they shouldn't be.
And cats. I guess Robin Hood you wouldn't do because of cats.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like you're just not gonna do that. So like I was thinking, Great Mouse Detective's similar thing, and Great Mouse Detective's not interesting if they look like normal mice. Well, it's not fun.
Yeah, and also I don't think they're as likely to go back to a dry spell period. They're not gonna adapt anything they made in the 80s.
There's been rumors about Black Cauldron,
or much of what they did.
But Black Cauldron would be a slightly different thing, where it would be an actual adaptation of those books.
Okay.
Where like Black Cauldron's kind of the first and second book of that series, but like there was never an intention to adapt that series
differently. See, I'm wondering if at some point they might not start going to more recent stuff and do like live action Frozen and shit like that.
Maybe.
Would you put that past them?
I
live action
think Rescuers is on the table.
Frog.
If they do Lady and the Tramp, I think Rescuers is on the table.
But see, it's not a super popular thing though.
But neither is Lady and the Tramp. I guess Lady and the Tramp has the one iconic moment, but
Lady and the Tramp is still thought of at least as one of their classics or masterpieces.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Rescuers is not.
The Rescuers is not that.
But they're running out. Like they're out of things. Like already.
Yeah, because they did it so. Wouldn't you just do one a year?
Well, you know what the big one is that they haven't done, right? Snow White.
Yeah.
It's their first film.
Yeah.
We know Pinocchio's coming.
Yep. That's been talked about a long time. Yeah, they probably will do something with Snow White, but I wonder if it won't be something like Maleficent, where they take like, some aspect of it and they don't actually do the same story. But I don't know what that would be exactly.
They kind of did Alice in Wonderland.
Yep.
Like they're running out of stuff to do.
Yeah.
And they don't
Which is
seem
good in my book because
and they don't
then
seem to
they're
be
forced
keen
to
to-
make something new
We'll just remake them
eventually.
again.
Oh, okay.
They'll remake the live action ones into cartoons, or no, in the CGI cartoons.
I think that I'm gonna predict something. I think they're gonna do.
They won't do Tarzan.
I think they're gonna do live action sequels to their live action movies direct to Disney Plus. I think that's the next place they're going.
Well, after Jungle Book, it was announced Jon Favreau was doing Jungle Book 2, and then that didn't happen. He ended up doing Lion King.
Weird.
But yeah, I was thinking about this, and like, Sleepy Hollow was the one where I was like, I think that's the diamond in the rough that they could still make, and people would be excited about it. But after that, maybe Sword in the Stone? I think it has to be people ones.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be anthropomorphic like Robin Hood. But I also don't think it can be like, I think Rescuers and Great Mouse Detective are weird if they're actual animals, especially after the reaction to Lady and Tramp, where like it's weird to have real animals next to people in a heightened idea. I guess they could redo 101 Dalmatians again.
Well, no, because they're doing a Cruella movie.
Oh, they are doing a Cruella movie.
They're already doing that.
That's right. I forgot.
And like, you're not gonna do Oliver and Company.
No one remembers that exists.
No, and it would be too hard to do for a thing no one cares about.
Yep. But no, I was just curious if there was anything I was overlooking. I could see Hercules. I think Hercules has a mixed reception.
Yeah, well, and that's something you could improve on.
I don't think they'll do Pocahontas, but maybe.
That would be insane. I
Really-
think that would be a mistake.
It would be. Well, what you would get is a Pocahontas that every decision is to apologize for the original film.
Yeah, no, they shouldn't do that. No. That's just immediately a mistake. So, hey, Eric, do you remember that time... I'm going to do this real quick. Do you remember that time when we were doing an After Dark and you did a word association game?
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Well, I've never done that to you.
No.
So I thought I should do that to you.
Okay.
So I have a list of 30 words.
And I did it because I'd never done word association. I was like, I see movies all the time.
You've never actually done it? So you've never been on the receiving end of it?
I've never done the receiving end.
For
I've
whatever
never
reason-
done it the other way until we did
For
After
whatever
Dark.
reason, I've done this a lot. I don't know
Oh,
why.
interesting.
I can't explain that, but it has happened a lot. So I have random words,
Okay.
and I mean, some of them less random than others because I knew who I was writing this down for, and
Okay.
so you just never know.
Okay.
Or rather, like it's like I'm thinking about Eric, so certain words are coming up.
J.J. Abrams, hack, Burton, hack.
Oh well, now I wish I'd gone for some people. I didn't do that. I don't have any proper nouns here. I wish I'd done that. These are just you didn't either. I don't think you did any
I did
proper nouns.
Skyfall.
Oh, well, I didn't do anything cool like that. But I'm just gonna do the list I have.
Sure. Anyway.
Okay, you ready, sir?
Yep.
All right, here we go. First thing that comes to your mind, just immediately, toss it out there. Are you ready? Here we go. Rice,
Baked,
hot,
cold,
fire,
water,
dog.
cat.
You just go for the opposite.
That's the first thing that comes to my mind. I'd be creative too.
We're learning so much about Eric. Deep,
Mind,
super,
man,
chaos,
order,
weird,
wacky,
hell,
demon,
car,
truck,
tree,
branch,
fast.
food, I guess is what immediately came to my brain.
I love how.
Because now I'm second guessing and trying not to go to the opposite.
I love how your immediate response to fast was not answering quickly. Night,
Day,
corn,
cob,
fine,
dandy,
star,
wars,
knife,
cut,
manic,
depressant,
death,
life,
comic,
book,
politics,
bad,
Christmas,
tree,
dread,
judge,
Snake.
Scared.
Casket.
Bake. I don't know why bake is what immediately comes to mind.
Bake. Ground.
Soft.
Stop.
Go.
High.
Low.
Door.
Ajar.
Violin.
Sound.
Some of those were really interesting. Some of those were exactly what I thought you would do. And then a lot of them were just the opposite.
That's what immediately comes to mind. Manic
Yeah.
depressant. I don't know what that says about me, but like immediately I said that, I was like, well, that probably means something.
I think that's the first word that would come to my mind with that too, though.
Yeah, I don't see manic
Just 'cause they
used
go
on its own.
On its own that much, yeah.
Or on its own with another word, I guess. Because like manic is a thing.
Right.
But like manic followed by another thing is manic depressant.
Yeah. It's not exactly like the letters QU, where there's almost always a U with Q, but you know, it's close to that.
You know, I was thinking about the alphabet recently.
Were you?
And how the ones near the end don't get used that much, except for W, which is all over the place. I guess
W?
Y is too.
Yeah, that's
But why is
true.
at the end it's like a thing, like unto itself, like it adds something to a word? But like W is used in words a lot. Why is not in words, it's at the end of words?
Yeah, I think the reason we put X and Z in so many made-up words and alien
It's 'cause they don't
things
get
is
used a
because
lot.
they never get used, and so they sound more exotic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Well, and interesting that X can sound like Z.
that's true.
That's bullshit, by
and
the
they're
way.
so close together in the alphabet.
That's one of the worst, like, that's a huge mistake, I think, in, like, crafting our language. No two letters should sound the same. That doesn't make sense. Right? Like,
I mean, they
that's
don't
just...
always sound the same. They just can. Like,
But that's dumb. That shouldn't be possible. If it was ever gonna, like, just always use the other letter, right? Am I wrong?
I don't know. I'd have to give it more thought. I mean, you end up with a lot fewer letters, and I don't know if that limits you too much, right? Like, can you live in a world without C and K? Just because a C can sound like an S and a K can sound like a C. Like,
Yeah, you would just have K and S.
yeah,
Or C and S, I guess. But like, K only makes the K sound.
sure.
Like, what is the point of C? Why does C exist? And C often starts words, so it's not like the letter before it is making it make that sound, which I also think is dumb. That a letter before it can make the sound of another letter. Like I get cha, right? I guess that's why C exists.
why
It's so
C
it's so you
exists.
compare it with other.
You can't put that with anything. Well, that's yeah.
Would you make K do that then? It would be KH.
I mean, I guess you could. The problem is, it's hard not to work backwards with this. Where like a lot of my reasonings for why you wouldn't do that is, well, that looks stupid. But it only looks stupid because I've lived with it. For
Yeah,
most of
KH
my life.
sounds dumb, but if C didn't exist, it doesn't.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to give it more.
It's
thought.
always bothered because and like that's like and you feel dumb when you have to ask that question, like when you're trying to spell the word, especially if it's a foreign word or something, or a word that you're not familiar with, where you're like, is it a C or an S? Or anything that starts with a PH instead of an F.
Well, and of course I mean, it's easy to talk about like why it's actually that way. Like, if we were just taking it down to its bare bones and say we don't need this stuff anymore, you could change it, but it's because our language is hobbled together from so many other languages. We have,
And is apparently the hardest language to learn because of that.
it can't be the hardest language to learn to write, but it's probably the hardest language to learn to speak to some degree.
It's just got so many contradictions within it. But I've always been told that like it's the hardest. It's the hardest second language.
You're right.
I've said the hardest language to like learn baseline, I guess.
Yeah.
It's the hardest second language.
No, I would assume that some of the Asian languages are way harder to learn than English.
Maybe at the start, but I guess it's harder to learn English from
some other language. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, and they didn't influence. Well, it'd probably be very difficult for them because English is a Romance language. It doesn't have any roots in that. Like maybe it's a little bit easier if you're coming from French, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Probably not.
But you always see people struggling with English. I think a lot of times the other way, it's English speaking people more struggling with pronunciation than it is. Like I get the sense when like a lot of people that English isn't their first language, like it's more confused, right? Like it's not the same as like if I learned French and like I just wasn't because it's about the accent, whereas English, it's like literally the construction of the word they're not sure of.
And also, like, colloquialisms and slang and stuff. That
I had
seems
somebody
to be
ask me that.
a little bit harder here than it is in some other places. Not like every language doesn't have its slang, because they do, but...
I had somebody ask me that at work. He's
but we use so many shortened forms of words and stuff. Like, I just said cuz instead of because. If you just learned the language, you wouldn't know what the hell I was talking about.
There was a guy at work who's from Italy or France. I forget where he's from. I think it might be France. But he came up to me, like, he was talking to somebody else, and they didn't know. And so they came to me. I thought it was a simple question to answer, but whatever. But he asks me, what was the phrase? It was, I can't remember what it was, but he goes, is that formal or informal? I was like, it's slang. And he was like, oh, okay. I don't know why the other person couldn't answer that. Like, it was a really simple. I wish I could remember what the word was, though. Because it was a word that's a contraction. Then when I thought about it, I was like, I don't know what's a contraction of.
Oh, really?
Yeah, but I couldn't immediately think of it. Or I can't immediately think of it.
Yeah, I wish I knew what it was. Because I can't immediately think of contractions where I only know the contraction.
Yeah, I'm trying to... I wish I could remember. And it's...
Like,
and it's something like, it's
like,
all good.
Ain't kind of functions that way.
Yeah.
Where it's a contraction, but it's not... But, I mean, it's basically...
But ain't starts as slang.
Yeah. Yeah, like you're told when you grow up it's not a real word.
I don't think you're told that anymore.
No,
we were told that.
Yeah,
but,
right.
Because it just is a word now.
Yeah.
And that's fine. Like, there's lots of words that we use and grew up with that 50 years ago were slang.
But yeah, I mean, ain't is basically isn't and kind of aren't, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, there's not really two words. But, like, you always see it with the apostrophe. So it functions like
what's are not, right? Is that what ain't is?
Yeah,
or I guess is not.
That's what I'm saying. Is that it's both, right?
Yeah, it's are not and is not.
Yeah,
ain't.
yeah. That's what I was. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways.
Well, thanks a lot for watching, folks. I hope you enjoyed it, and we didn't get through a lot of topics tonight.
No, I actually had a plan that didn't pan out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was going to do.
Did I ruin it?
Well, no, I ruined it because I took half of the episode talking about my first topic. But I had a thing where I was going to secretly weave in a Halloween theme because we're shooting in October. So I started with the Ghostbusters thing, and I had the Disney thing, which would have been which my answer was Headless Horseman.
Yeah.
And then I wanted to follow up on at the end of last video. We started on UFOs and kind of got into like ghosts and hauntings.
That was a really fun discussion.
I wanted to follow up on that, and then my last one was just Halloween movies. I'm like, that's what I was going to be like. And secretly, I've been doing a Halloween thing the whole time.
Okay, but when was the last time either of us managed to get through 4?
No, you're right.
Been a long time. We may be able to get one more done in October, and if that happens, you could knock your other 2 out.
Yeah,
although you've already told us what they are, but that's fine.
Yeah.
You could still do that, and you could maybe get other ones in there.
Well, I couldn't come up with a good 4th one, so I just did the Halloween movies for kids. But I don't know if that's actually a good topic, especially because you don't immediately go to those kinds of things.
I don't. So I mean, like,
I was just trying to come up with another one.
You know about all the stuff that I know. Like, it's unfortunate. I like Halloween a lot. There's not a lot of, horror stuff and horror-esque stuff. Oh, speaking of that though, real quick, I learned something weird today, which is I went back and looked up the 1995 Casper movie. Because I grew up with that movie and I was curious.
It's got Foggy Nelson in it.
Does it really?
He is Casper when Casper becomes human.
I didn't know that.
I didn't either until I went and saw Idle Hands at an anniversary screening of Idle Hands, and he is one of the 2 like stoner buddies in that movie. And he's like, oh, and they asked a question about him being in something, and it was Casper. I didn't realize I'd seen him in so many things before because I only knew him as the guy from Butterfly Effect.
Yeah, I never knew him from anything.
But no, he's actually in a bunch of things. He is. I don't know if he's the voice of Casper, but he is the physical form of Casper.
That's really interesting.
Anyways.
Well, I just looked it up because I was, I grew up with that movie and I was curious about the box office because I knew it was, I thought it was like moderately successful. It did like really well.
There's like 2 sequels.
Versus its budget, and I think they're both direct to video.
I think the second one's not. I think Casper and Wendy is.
I really thought they only came direct to video.
Right.
Anyway, did you know that J.J. Abrams wrote on that movie?
No, but that doesn't surprise me.
Uncredited, but I guess he was a script doctor or something.
Because he did The Burbs.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, he was doing stuff like that in the 90s.
Yeah. I was just surprised to see his name there, because I never really knew what he was doing before he was a name.
Mm-hmm.
So, that was an interesting thing I learned. But anyway, well, thanks again for watching, guys. We'll see you again.
He does weird stuff. I think he did Felicity. I think Felicity is like his
really?
show. Like I think he like made that show.
Interesting.
And then he does Alias.
He does Alias, yeah, which I never saw.
No. That's weird because you like Jennifer Garner.
I've always meant to go back and look at that.
I have been told that is a show that completely changes premise halfway through.
That's what
I think it goes from spy to science fiction, but I don't know.
Well, I mean, Lost changes hands 3 or 4 times too, so I realize he didn't primarily make that.
I don't think he leaves. I think he does it.
Yeah.
And not like this was the secret plan the whole time. Like, we might get canceled. Let's just make it a different show and see if that sells.
Wow.
I think. Don't quote me on it, but I think that might be more like the studio came back and was like, so we like your show. We just need you to change everything except for Jennifer Gardner wearing not lots of clothes. If you can keep that, but we need you to not be a spy. Spy shows don't sell.
Well, they don't.
I mean, it was on the same time as 24, which isn't exactly a spy show, but it's espionage. It's in the ballpark.
That's true, but I think the espionage. I don't know. I think procedurals were doing really well right then in a way. Spy wasn't.
24 is almost a
I'm not saying 24 is
show.
really a procedural, but like
it's Jack Bauer finding people
realm.
Who are spies and pretending to be other people. It's he is the bad guy in every other spy fiction.
I mean, yeah. To be fair, like he occasionally does go undercover.
He's like a narcotics agent in the beginning of season 2, or is he just a druggie?
No, that's why he winds
He went undercover.
up.
Yeah, no, he's totally
heroin.
a spy.
Yeah, I guess he is. But I never think of it like a spy show.
I kind of do because G.I. Joe Cobra, which one day we should review. Because I know you don't care about G.I. Joe or spies, but it was always, when it was coming out, people always like called it like the 24 of comics. And since you like 24, it doesn't have the gimmick that is the only reason you like 24 in the first place.
It's the only reason I watched 24 in the first place. There are other reasons to like that show.
But you might like it.
It did keep me watching.
If we ever did it, I would have to buy the hardcover release of it, because the thing I hate is that there is a major thing that happens in the third arc, because it's 3-4 issue miniseries, so like it's 12 issues in total. There's a major thing that happens in the third one, and it's entirely spoiled on the cover.
Really?
Yeah, it's a thing that like, and like
That's
when it came out, when that issue dropped, people lost their minds. They could not believe that this just happened, and it is the title on the cover.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should read that at some point, because you've talked about G.I. Joe forever, and yeah, I've never cared about it.
And,
but
it's the not G.I. Joe book. Like, it's about Cobra. Like, it's about one operative going in and learning about Cobra. Like, it's not a war book. G.I. Joe's always weird because it's kind of a war book, but kind of not. But yeah, it's really good though, and it's Mike Costa. Like before he went to Marvel, and
interesting.
Just kept just missing. The beginning of his Venom run was really good, and I'm convinced that everything after that is not his fault. Right? There's no way he wrote that first arc and knew that his second arc was Land Before Crime. Right? Like,
I wouldn't think. It's such a weird tonal shift. And like that's okay, I guess, if you keep kind of bouncing back and forth, but it stayed too much in that.
And that first arc is more indicative. That's why I was so excited about that first arc, because it felt kind of like Cobra. Like that was the kind of stuff he does.
And people were liking the beginning of that.
And then you just completely went off the rails.
Yeah, it was weird. Well, anyway, thanks again for watching, everybody. We will see you again next time in the not too distant future. I was Captain Logan.
And I was Eric.
Bye, folks.